hi everyone, thanks for coming out. I think we have a great lineup of speakers here, so it'll be a great conversation. And we're also going to leave a little bit of time at the end for Q&A, so think of some questions to ask later. But yeah, so like the topic of influencer marketing itself is pretty broad, so I think we're going to focus in a little bit more on kind of the growing trend of how brands and creators are working together on, they're collaborating on like social media series, or integrating into existing social media series, like Gymnasium's Boy Room, which we'll talk a little bit about. So I guess, Adam, just to kick things off, like, do you want to start by telling the audience a little bit about what Gymnasium is in case they're not familiar?
Totally. So I run a company called Gymnasium. We're a digital television studio. We make shows that primarily live on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts. Everything we make right now is vertical, short form, unscripted. And I think the thing that's really special about us is our shows really look like television, they feel like television, but they really are made for these social platforms. So they're premium as it relates to the platform that they're on, but they aren't shot on Arri Alexas. We don't have 25-person crews. It's usually about 3 people and 2 DSLRs. And what we really specialize in is working with both undiscovered talent as our hosts and undiscovered talent as our guests. And so we try to prioritize these formats that are so interesting on their own that they don't require celebrity talent to book in order to be viral. So our biggest show that Jillian mentioned is called Boy Room, and it's where this comedian Rachel Coster investigates really disgusting men's bedrooms and then gives advice on how to make them better. And which we'll, I think, chat about in a little bit, yes. We ended up working with Amazon to start renovating those bedrooms in the episodes of the show. So kind of really at the forefront of figuring out this space of social content meets television, meets branded, et cetera.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why Gymnasium? How did you get arrived at that name?
It's a great question. So initially the name of the company was actually Faze World, and that was half narcissism, half just literally couldn't think of a name. But there's a gaming team called Faze Clan.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
They sued us really quickly.
Oh no.
And so we had to change the name of the company, and it was like a 2-month, like, every night I thought it was the night that we were going to come up with a name, and it was like 5 a.m., whiteboard sessions. And eventually a friend of mine called me and was like, so you're thinking about high school names, like recess, okay, that's taken, like, is it detention, like what's something? And they're like, what about Gymnasium? And what we thought about was like, okay, gymnasiums, so there's gyms, but like a gymnasium on a campus is actually this roof where, a lot of things happen outside of just sports and PE, but also like prom and homecoming and Spirit Week and everything else. And it felt like this roof that all these crazy characters came underneath. And it was like, okay, that feels pretty right for us.
I love it. Random.
Yeah, Jack Brigger.
What's that?
No, our friend is the one who came up with it.
I was going to say, I also think it's interesting that like you guys focus is sort of on like finding undiscovered talent versus like taking like a creator who's already popular and making them the star of one of your shows. But like these people like kind of sort of become famous, I guess, like the comedian who hosts Boy Room.
I mean, and even before that, like our first show ever was a show called Keep the Meter Running, where this comedian Kareem Rama would hail a cab in New York and tell the driver, take me wherever you want to go and keep the meter running while we spend the day with each other. Kareem at that point had around 20,000 followers on Instagram, not nothing, but was more known for doing sort of a viral stunt with New York Nico every now and then. And Kareem now hosts Subway Takes, which is like the biggest show on TikTok. And I would say Kareem is literally the mayor of New York City at this point. I mean, you actually cannot walk around New York with this guy. So it's crazy to watch your friends just like really turn into stars because of the content that they're in.
And I guess maybe pivoting more into like the brand side of the conversation, I actually interviewed Kareem about a collab he did with UPS, where it was like basically like keep the meter running, but in like a UPS truck. Like he talked to like the drivers about like their routes, and like they'd bring, or he'd ride along with them to like deliver a package.
Exactly.
So it's like sort of this idea of like the brands wanting to take those formats that are doing really well and like kind of adding the brand in a way that sort of makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess sort of going off of that, I know like these brands also are trying to kind of like take these types of formats and bring them into like the brand kind of channels, like not necessarily working with the creator always, but like kind of leaning into like this like made for social kind of content. I know, Jamie, you guys just partnered with Amelia de Moldenberg to launch a show called Chuckmates, kind of drawing on her like chicken shop date, like kind of romance expert like persona online. If you'd want to like maybe talk a little bit about that series that you just launched.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for doing this, moderating, and great to see you guys. I have the privilege of knowing both of these guys well. Pat and I worked together on some work for E.L.F, and when Adam launched Boy Room, we tried to take it to a client and have them actually buy into an episode and work with them on it. And, it was interesting. It was not a lot of viewers, not a lot of followers, I guess. That first episode, 500,000 pretty quickly. And we saw something in that, and I think it's something we think about a lot. Like, what is the value of entertainment to the audience? You know, entertainment as an idea for building something that feels sticky, that has a real connection to an audience is important. You know, it makes you feel something and, you know, kind of keeps it with you. But I think it's tricky for most brands because it's a big investment to produce high quality entertainment content. And what I love about what you guys do is it's not that expensive. Well, I don't know, you can tell whatever the price is that you want to charge for it. But it's doable, you know, and it doesn't take the huge crew. Because if you're going to go out and put a ton of cash into something, it can be scary. You know, so Amelia came along because Converse has been producing an above-the-line campaign called Love Chuck. And it's really about trying to get fans to fall back in love with Converse. And, you know, so another agency, big TV spot, our job is to take that and figure out what does Love Chuck mean in a ton of different spaces and shapes. And we started thinking about, well, who does love well on the internet? And Amelia came up. So, you know, Chicken Shop Date, she falls in love a lot. I don't know if everybody else falls in love with her. But we pitched a few different ideas, you know, brought her name forward as something, and then, you know, used the, you know, Soulmates, Chuckmates as a way to kind of take that and blow it into something else. So produced a couple episodes with her. It was originally going to be very short, you know, 1-2 minute long kind of TikTok length. But the casting was great. The talent had a lot of fun. They ended up being close to like 8.5 minutes on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And shorter for TikTok. And, you know, so far the response has been pretty good. Working with someone like her, you know, I think allowed us to kind of do the opposite here. We're able to leverage her personality, her celebrity. But I think for Converse, it's getting to tap into, you know, a different way of creating online.
Yeah. I guess especially on YouTube where the episodes are a little bit longer, like what's the engagement and kind of watch time like on there? Are people sticking around for like these whole like 8-minute episodes?
You're seeing some that stick around the whole time. Watch time is much longer than I think we originally expected. It was a little bit of a pilot. I think, you know, it's something they've never really done. I think for a lot of brands, YouTube ends up being a place where you just like collect stuff.
Yeah.
You know, everything goes there, the ad campaign, maybe a video or, you know, an interview with a designer. You know, I would like to say that, you know, the brands we work with have like really strong YouTube strategies. I think it's one of those places that, you know, more brands probably should do more and invest in more. But for this, it's been pretty good. You know, we're averaging, you know, 3 to 4 times longer viewing time than on shorter form videos.
Okay.
But it's really taken off more on TikTok. And then being able to leverage, you know, her distribution, her reach as a way to kind of get the right comments, the right feedback. It's working well enough that we're exploring how to extend it.
Okay.
By the way, I'll also give Jamie credit, which is that when they reached out about Boy Room, and I think this is probably the reason why we actually stayed really close friends, was that like day one was the only agency that reached out that really figured out, okay, we want to integrate into the show. We also want to let you guys figure out how to integrate the brand. Whereas I think everyone else was starting to reach out to us, like came with these big presentations and decks. We're like, okay, we need you to look at the camera and say it like this. And it was like just this clear understanding of like, oh, you actually understand how to show up on these platforms. And so I think like that's where a lot of mutual respect came from.
And for us, you know, we're sitting in the middle of creators and brands all the time. I try to learn as much as I can from what they do so well. And, you know, we'll probably talk about it later. But even just like the little small things that you'll do in a format that, you know, we're so accustomed to trying to create brand content for paid, and you're trying to get that logo hit, you know, really early in the content. Sometimes the stuff that actually takes off and has the best life is kind of ignoring a lot of those traditional rules.
Are these like these short form like social video series like something you're doing more for clients lately, or is it like a trend that's been going on for a while?
I think it started probably 1.5, 2 years ago to start to come back. It's funny, everything's cyclical. I mean, I started doing, you know, short form content for YouTube like 2012, 2013. I feel like everything from 2013 is ready to come back right now because Gen Z didn't live through it as much, you know. So
it's new to Gen Z.
It makes me feel really old to talk about Gen Z and be, you know, as old as I am. But yeah, I mean, I think
How old are you, Jamie?
Yeah, get into it, Pat. We'll have a conversation. Yeah, I think we are seeing kind of a reversal from let me jump on this trend and do the quick hit of it and participate in it. If you're gonna do it, what's your unique, different take where people remember the brand, they don't remember the trend. And, you know, one way to sort of be able to plan out is to do more of these short form series. And, you know, you hear about like, you know, the rise of like a premium social. I think people are looking for something. If it's replacing TV for a lot of this generation, they want to have TV-like experiences there.
Exactly, and we'll get into that a little bit later too. But Pat, I know, like, I don't know, have you guys done like one of these like social media series like per se, where it's like serialized episodes like this?
Yeah, we've done a few, but the campaign that comes to mind, the things that we've done is really just around the content we do around the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
it really is.
I feel like the Z-Way show and
yeah, Z-Way was good. It was an opportunity for us to kind of again connect with a generation of people. But to your point on YouTube and getting people to connect with it took a bit. It was a beat.
Yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah, it was a
It
challenge.
feels expensive and hard, and you do have to. The creators that do so well, they're putting out with consistency, and that's part of the tricky thing.
Yeah.
And then I think the other challenge is keeping it alive.
Yep.
How do you keep the momentum going? Which I love hearing about what you guys are doing. Our big challenge for us is just, again, investing and finding the time to create the content and keeping it alive.
Yeah. I was actually going to bring up, it's a little different than like a boy room, but there was that creator who was sailing from Oregon to Hawaii who was sort of documenting his day-to-day experience out at sea. And you guys, do you want to talk about kind of how you work with him?
Sure. So how many of you know Oliver? A few of you. So Oliver quit his job in Oregon. He was doing something with tires. Oh. And he was really frustrated with corporate America. He sold his, or he got rid of his 401k and bought a boat. Didn't know how to sail, but this was his vision and his passion. And we love to support people that have passion around what they want to do. It's about empowerment. And he was traveling across the ocean. I was sitting on my couch on a Saturday night, random, scrolling through TikTok.
As you
saw
do.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what we do, right? We all do it, so all of you do it. And I'm like, I called up Brad from eGen. They're a gaming agency, and I said, dude, we got to do something here. There's something here. We talked about a drone show drop. We talked about a plane. We talked about a boat. We talked about a helicopter. And then at the end of it, we were like, okay, Brad's like, I'm going to Hawaii next week. We were doing something at NASCAR, so I couldn't go. So he flew to Hawaii, and from Australia. And we figured out how to do it. And we partnered with, what I love more than anything is we partnered with a nonprofit. And they're an aviation specialty is to train young kids on how to fly. And so we partnered with the agency, or the pilot and the agency, and we dropped what he needed were Pringles and cat food. And so we gave him some sunblock, so it was really kind of an authentic way for us to show up with him. And then when he landed in Hawaii, we did a Twitch live stream with him and celebrated his landing and got to go deep with him to understand why he did it, where he is in his life and his journey. And then we are building a Roblox game with this, which is super cool. So there's an opportunity for us to, we reached out to all the Roblox gamers and we asked them to create a game with Oliver and his cat Phoenix. And we're in the process right now of selecting and identifying the developer who will win to create this game.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like it's this like multi-phase like campaign, but it's all centered around this one creator who kind of like started the storyline, I guess.
Yeah, no, he is. If you don't know him, he's a very unique individual, and we love a little bit of the misfit toys at E.L.F. So he is a little bit of a misfit toy. He fits into our family very well.
Yeah, and I guess I think you talked a little bit about Twitch because you said when he landed, you guys did a stream with him. I know like during the Super Bowl a few months ago, you guys sort of took a different approach to the game and like had like a kind of live stream going on concurrently like with the game. Can you talk a little bit about sort of like kind of showing it one of those entertainment moments in a way that's more social first?
Yeah, we knew we wanted to be part of the conversation. So Corey, and this was all done in like five days.
Wow.
She's like, hey, what are we doing for Super Bowl? I'm like, fuck, I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. And we did. And the idea was that we had just launched a campaign called E.L.F on Zane. It means 11 out of 10 in German. And the idea of the campaign was, and it was done in Germany, but when we showed it to people in the US, it really resonated. People loved the idea, and there was a song. There was the guy that was the chemist, if you will, showed up in a loud way, and he created this energy around the transformation of what we're going to do in Germany. And so we're like, okay, how do we take E.L.F on Zane and bring it into every day? And how we did it was we did a live simulcast with 2 women sportscasters. And they really showed up to talk about what the game meant to them. We brought in food. We did it on Twitch. We did it on TikTok. We did it across multiple YouTube, every channel to get the reach. And it really showed up. It was a cool moment for us. Over 1 million views on TikTok, which we didn't think we would get.
Wow.
And generated a lot of entertainment around it.
Because I feel like that's sort of another topic when it comes to like how creators are kind of shaping this new era of entertainment. Like I don't have a stat off the top of my head, but a lot of people like to consume like pop culture events like the Super Bowl or like the Oscars like through a creator's lens, like their commentary and stuff like that. So I think that's a good example of sort of how that's kind of taking shape with brands.
Yeah, no, entertainment is a big part of who we are. E.L.F, you know, we are not your traditional beauty brand. What I'm excited about is I'm creating an entertainment arm under my umbrella, and it'll be gaming, it'll be sports, specifically women in sports, and music, and experiential and artistry. So all that will fall under the entertainment umbrella. And I would love to work with Gymnasium because I love what you're doing.
That's our dream.
We're going to close the deal backstage.
Yeah. Well, with the help of D1A.
Yeah.
It won't be without them.
Yeah, but Adam, I guess just kind of going back to what you had said about bringing in Amazon for the second season of Boy Room, I'd love to hear more about kind of why you wanted to bring a brand into that environment and sort of what it was like to work with them in a way that kind of didn't alienate viewers with the first season, but kind of added to it.
I mean, I think it was really interesting because we were really excited when we launched that show because we thought there were a lot of ways where brands could integrate into a format like that. There was the top comment on every episode was a girl saying, "I can fix him." But the second top comment was always someone saying, like, "You have to fix these rooms. You can't just leave them in the shape that they're in." And so we started thinking, like, okay, maybe instead of doing these sort of one-off partnerships, it'd be great to find one brand that could actually be like our actual real partner built into the series. And so we started talking with everyone from IKEA to Wayfair and eventually Amazon. And Amazon was the only one who really understood that they would like to come in at a series level. They want to do a 16-episode integration with us where we could actually renovate these bedrooms and not leave them living like trash. I think for us, it was our first brand collaboration of that size and scale. Also, working with a company of the size and scale of Amazon, there were a lot of learnings for us. But I think, part of being in this very new landscape of media is that we do shoot things in a certain way. Our crew sizes are very small. We shoot with a certain kind of DSLR camera. And I think some of that can be seen as like, oh, well, it's just because you're young and you need to when you have better budget, you need to shoot with better cameras. But I think what a lot of people have a harder time understanding is like, this content is still going on TikTok. It's still fitting in between two people yapping about exes. Like, it has to fit naturally on that feed, and if it doesn't, I think these kids are really smart to knowing that you're trying to sell them something. And so
I think you have clients on set then?
And so when we started working with Amazon, and I think we're in a much better place with them now and we can see much more eye to eye, but it was sort of a jarring experience for them. And maybe it was my fault for not explaining sort of what they were walking onto. But the first day that we were shooting the show with Amazon, we had 6 Amazon executives on site with us. We, for the first time, had to get monitors and kind of have a bigger crew. And so it went from a 3-person crew to about a 15-person crew. And it really did change the nature of what we were capturing. Because all of a sudden, these guys who already were reluctantly being on this show because they knew they were about to be roasted for 2 weeks on TikTok are now being watched by like executives in suits that are sort of like, can you hold the box again like this? And it's like, this is actually, this is a real reality show. I don't think people realize, when we say set, it's a disgusting man's bedroom. Like this is, we're really there.
It's not like a production studio,
Exactly.
It's an actual apartment.
And so we ended up doing 16 episodes. And by the way, I would say that like one of those episodes was actually our second highest organically performing episode ever. And that was because the casting was perfect. They really let us do our thing. The room was perfectly disgusting and messy. And I would say on our part, we did the best renovation. So I think it proved that like when you actually had all the pieces of the puzzle correct, it thrived. That episode got, I think, 4.5 million views organically between TikTok and Instagram. The boy who we gave a bed had his mattress back on the floor the next day, but that's a whole other conversation. But I think, there were a lot of learning curves of just figuring out, like, how can I understand certain things we need to do need to be sort of upscaled to make sure that it fits the brand safety that, we need to check certain boxes. But on the other hand, we need to make sure that it still feels super authentic to our viewers, because what we don't want is our audience to start sort of turning against it for saying, like, oh, you sold out and this is not the show we want anymore. We want them to root for the partnership, and if we can do our jobs correctly, the show should be better with the brand than without.
I mean, this kind of thing happens all the time with trying to find creators to come in and work on programs with brands. I think the best brands understand you're hiring and identifying someone to do their thing. Yeah. So how do you give them the free space to kind of do a version of that? But if a fan is watching and all of a sudden, I worked on something years ago and we hired these dancers and they're doing their thing, and client was like, hey, can I get a VO over all this? Can we have it explained a little bit more? And that's like one of the worst performing videos they ever did. So in doing these things, it's how you kind of find that space to, it's hard, you gotta play both sides. You're trying to make sure you get everything done on the brand side, the message comes across, it's clear, but then also the creators have these small nuanced expertise. And the thing they're just known for. So I know you don't like to think of yourself as a creator, but
no, but I think, I mean, to that point, I also think that like we were working with some people that came from more traditional Hollywood, and so like they're used to kind of watching a piece of content and then like, okay, what are our notes for this, and like let's deliver studio notes back to the sort of TV team that's making the show. And the difference here is like, you know, this was already a successful show. We were getting an average of 2.5, 3 million viewers an episode. We knew what sort of made the show work and not work, and so. Even there would be notes that I would maybe agree with if this was a TV show, that like, yes, that actually would maybe make this a stronger piece of content. But like knowing how finicky our audience is and how trigger friendly they are with wanting to swipe to the next video, like that just unfortunately is not a note that we can listen to.
Yeah.
And so again, I think it's finding that balance of like really understanding where that note is coming from, and if it has to do something with the brand or the product they're trying to push, let's like have the best understanding possible. But at the end of the day, like our goal is that we want this thing to be seen by as many people as possible. And so we're always going to try to work with brands from that lens of like, we want this thing to be successful. So how do we kind of hit the same foot forward and try to have that success?
Yeah. Yeah, I know you said that kind of when you first started working with Amazon, it was sort of like this like boardroom sort of thing with a bunch of like executives in suits. But how, did you kind of work with them to kind of find like a middle ground that sort of made more sense for like your kind of like normal production style?
I think now, so we're going in production on a brand new series with them that's a spin-off of Boy Room. And I think now that the team there has a much better understanding of like, okay, we actually want you guys to cook and do your thing, and like we're gonna actually stay out of the way as much as possible. And I think the only places where they still have to have a hand, and it makes total sense, is casting and making sure these people can represent the brand. That makes total sense. But I would imagine that our production is gonna look a whole lot more like Boy Room Season 1 than Boy Room Season 2 with this new spin-off.
The executive said let him cook.
They said let him cook.
Yeah, I know, Jamie, you said like you kind of run into this issue sometimes with clients where they want to be a little bit overly controlling of the creator content.
Oh boy. Oh, here we
We'll ask
go.
you
Not
about
this
that
guy.
too.
Oh shit.
But I'm just curious how you kind of handle those situations too, and like if there's like kind of common challenges you have to like overcome in those scenarios.
Yeah, what I said earlier is part of it. I think
Yeah.
you're trying to find the space kind of in between it. You know, the other thing that can be really tricky is timing. Like, especially, you know, you guys got with this guy in the boat so fast, and I think E.L.F is incredibly good at this and moves at, you know, E.L.F speed, which for us can be, you know, it's a challenge, but I appreciate that we're extensions of the team and try to figure it out. But with a creator, if you're trying to find and get in at the right time and they have an idea, the worst thing is waiting a week for feedback and taking too long and dragging out. You could miss the moment, but more importantly, I think we have to think of them like talent in a lot of ways and build that relationship, and hopefully it's, you know, longer lasting. Some of our best creator work has been with folks that we've, you know, worked once, it does well, we keep them in the ecosystem, we try to find ways to go back and back again and again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. And
My build on that would just be, as we're continuing to expand with, you know, influencer and creator has been the foundation of how E.L.F has really thrived, truly. It goes back to the day of Jeffree Star. He loved our Jelly Pop Primer back in 2019, and it set us on fire. It really did. And then obviously what happened with Eyes, Lips, Face on TikTok, creating a song that really went viral in a day when, you know, song and dance was not really a part of conversations until TikTok came around. But what's been transformative for us is people like Michaela. If you don't know Michaela, she's from Boston. She's a trip. She's amazing. She's an amazing human being and a creative soul. She actually has a degree in communications. I don't know if you knew that, but
I didn't.
One day we decided to make her the CEO of E.L.F for the day, and we kicked Turing out of his office, who was our CEO, and she came in and it blew up the internet. It was like one of those viral moments for us to really celebrate, you know, the creator network and also creating women in power, and it was really a brilliant campaign for us. She had just launched. Well, she was getting married, so we created a lip kit for her. And that sold out, and her fans went crazy. They wanted more of her lip kit, and we got the lip kit back, and that's when we made her the CEO. So there was a reason behind her coming in and telling the world that we now have her lip kit.
Yeah, when you mentioned Michaela, I wanted to bring up that collab you did with her, like tied to her wedding, which I think is really fascinating. It's like not just integrating into their content, but sort of like these life moments for them.
No, it was honestly, again, it's we listen, we learn, and we lean in. Those are kind of the three things that we do very well. And partnering with agencies like Day One to help us bring our magic to life. And they bring a lot of magic to the table as well. But there's so many stories around when Jelly Pop Primer, when it went away, you know, Corey and the C-suite got on, our CFO and everyone got on a Twitch live stream to talk about, you know, how long it takes to get something in market. We can move very quickly and get things in market quickly. But it was Terang that sat down with our community and said, hey, you know, I'm going to go down and I'm going to make sure that we get that and market ASAP. Because when you hear these people scream, we would literally post something about something else, and all the feed was about bring back Jelly Pop Primer. That was it. And that really was what set us apart from really trying to change the conversation. So we did. We listened, we learned, and we lean in.
Yeah. I think when you guys launched Bronzing Drops, I don't know if that was this year or last year, but you announced it with like a social video or just like screenshots of all the comments being like, we want Bronzing Drops.
Look at you doing your homework. I love that.
Yeah. I feel like that's really an interesting thing that happens. I feel like mostly on TikTok, just because the comment section like is such a behavior that you do now. You kind of just immediately will like scroll up on the comments to see what people are saying under the video. And I think. What was I going to say? Oh, I guess like Adam, I think for you guys, when you partnered with Amazon, you had sort of been seeing a lot of comments with people saying that they wanted to see these rooms made over.
And we did basically the same video when we announced the second season, was just like using the audience to say like, you guys asked for this. We're doing exactly what you guys asked us to do. And I think having that relationship where they feel like they're a part of the experience and we're not just like force feeding them things, but like we're listening to them and kind of giving them the experience they want out of our shows is like a huge part of it.
I think that's some of the power of social media too, and why like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, increasingly, I guess millennials as well, but like a lot of them are turning more to social content than TV. I didn't come with stats, but there's stats where I think it was a Deloitte digital report recently said that Gen Z finds creators a lot more authentic and social media content a lot more relatable than Hollywood content. So I feel like that's maybe why these social media series have become so important for brands to be part of.
And I also think that, you know, when you think about the time and attention that these young people spend watching these platforms, like I spent 7 years working in traditional Hollywood where my only dream was working on, you know, big TV shows. But like you go back to that process now, and it's like, okay, you find that perfect script, it goes in development hell for 4 years, eventually it gets made, it takes another year to get made, and then another year to go market the thing. So let's say like, well, let me be easy and say it takes 5 years to get a show made from the time you find that script. Like, that entire time, you have no idea if the audience actually wants to watch this thing. You have no idea if they're going to like this thing. And then it finally comes out, and maybe it bombs. And it's like, oh, we just spent 6 years on something that didn't even work, and we spent $200 million making it. Like, you couldn't pay me to go back to that world anymore. The idea that, like, Rachel came to us with the idea for Boy Room on a Tuesday. We shot the pilot on a Friday at Peter's house, actually. That idea, the episode has never come out. It will never see the light of day. But the first episode finally came out a week after that, and within 3 weeks, it had 50,000 followers on TikTok, had reached 4 million views, and was on the front page of the New York Times. It's like, that's simply not possible in Hollywood anymore, and you couldn't pay me any amount of money to go back.
And for doing these things, if it doesn't work, it can be okay. You know, I think it is a test and learn kind of space. I mean, you've put shows out that you've done one or two of, and hey, let's move on.
We did a show last summer called Bodega Run. That was sort of like brain rot supermarket sweep, I would describe it.
That's a good description.
We would put these 360-degree cameras on real-life people outside the street of a bodega, and we'd say, if you can go find these 3 items in there, we'll pay you $100. We never even told the bodegas we were doing this show. It just sort of happened.
Might have been part of the problem.
And the first episode is actually our highest viewed piece of content we've ever produced. It has like 62 million views across YouTube and TikTok. And then the average viewership of the other episodes would be around 100K, 150K views. And for us, it proved that that show was like a perfect stage for virality, that if you had the right crazy character coming on it, it'd be massively viral. But otherwise, like, the format wasn't interesting enough for it to have legs on its own. And so we cut the cord, we canceled the show. But you have to imagine that in a 1-month process, we came up with the idea, we released it, it was successful, then we canceled it. All for the cost of around $10,000 in 4 weeks.
Wow.
Like, 4 weeks is how long it takes to get a pitch meeting set in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, you know, it goes to speed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting too. Like when it comes to brands, like for them, like if it's like they want to have a TV commercial versus like test kind of this like social series that like is it's polished, but it's like still like made for social. Like it's a lot more affordable, and like you can do it a lot quicker.
You can make a lot of bets, and you never really know what's going to hit. I mean, you can put a lot of stuff out there. You can have a lot of faith in it, the right creator, the right time, the right product. And sometimes it just doesn't work. And you know, I think it's also really important to go and find out why, and to look at those comments, because we get really good feedback as to what was maybe inauthentic about it, or what someone might tell us to do different. You know, you take it all with a grain of salt, but you know, there's a chance to then figure out the next idea. And I mean, you guys are the best at this. I feel like you have idea after idea after idea, and it's the repetition and the variety of the entertainment, as you mentioned it, that does it.
I mean, you referenced Vanity Table Talk with Z-Way and a couple other, you know, talent. It was a great test for us, but it was really expensive. And it took a minute, it took a beat to create it. And I love the series, and again, it was built off of the Super Bowl commercial that we did, but the Super Bowl commercial happened in February. We didn't launch the series until like 6 months later. And you have that long-term delay, and people don't connect the dots then. So I am really excited to talk to you.
I also think we should have inflated that number slightly. Come on now.
But it's funny, because I think the thing that we're trying to figure out as well when we work with brands is like, so far the way we've been working with brands is we like greenlight a show, we're about to go do this big food show with a beverage brand, and you know, with something like this food show, we know one way or another this idea is going to work, even if it takes a few ideas to sort of like try certain edits around. But other times there's bigger, bolder ideas that like we don't know if it's going to work, but we think it could. And the way that I think we're trying to work with brands going forward is like having this relationship where it's like, we want to keep trying until there is a hit, and like let's have that be the relationship so that when we finally have that hit show, now this is the thing that's going to keep going on forever. But like not having it to be that you have to pay up front for this one concept that might not be the thing that works. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, okay.
And there's, I like this too, because I think you can do a version of something, and the next version can be bigger and better. I mean, that's how we met E.L.F. was doing a small collaboration. We met them through Chipotle. What do we do with like a seating kit first?
Yeah.
You know, really small, just to see two of Gen Z's favorite brands. Let's bring them together. Let's see what happens here. Good feedback. And then we figured out how to do something bigger.
The signals were there.
But you know, it took, in that case, to produce a product, what, 9 months, 10 months? Really long time. But that was, you know, the first time we got a chance to work together. And yeah, I think social gives you this chance to, you know, creative on our team talks about like the MVP, the minimally viable product. Like what's the cheapest, most easy way to get this out there and see if it works? We do it with Chipotle all the time. Like we did cilantro soap, and you know, that was a meme that was posted making fun of this idea. And yeah, fans asked for it. So then we had to figure out how to make 100% organic cilantro soap, you know, over the course of a few months. But yeah, you can put it out there, test, and I think even from a, you know, I could see these TikTok shows going and becoming bigger and bigger.
And that's our favorite thing too, is if there's an idea that's good enough that we think it could expand into a YouTube format that's 10, 15 minutes long. I mean, we just launched a new show called Roommate Court that's basically small claims court for roommate conflict in their apartments.
It's like Judge Judy.
You know, and we're just fans of court television, and so for us it was like, what's our hook, our way in to make doing this for a new generation? And you know, we come back from a shoot with 40 minutes of footage, and it's like 10 minutes of it are fucking amazing. And so it's like, it's painful to get it down to 2.5 minutes long. So for us, I think we're gonna just start shooting the show both vertically and horizontally to just have both options, but like, we think it's gonna crush on YouTube.
I love that.
Are you nervous about getting viewers to come over to YouTube, though, or do you think it could
I think it's a totally different audience, to be honest. Like, and I also find that even with the social platforms, even like, you know, I think the user behavior of someone that uses Instagram, and the reason why it prioritizes such short form content is that you're first going on to talk with your friends, you're going on to see what your friends have posted, then maybe you get stuck watching Reels for 30 minutes, but like, it's really a lot of memes that you're going to send to your friends. Whereas I think the user behavior of someone that uses TikTok is like, I'm in bed, I have time to watch stuff. Like, it's the same part of me that used to watch Netflix, I'm watching TikTok instead. And so your likelihood of watching a 4 or 5 minute video is a lot higher. YouTube Shorts, I think, is just a brain rot 12-year-old audience, or like my dad. I think like those are the two categories there. But
I feel very offended.
You know,
are you on YouTube Shorts a lot?
I do prefer. I prefer.
Really? No, you
Really?
don't.
I mean,
That's a hot take.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
And I had to get comfortable when TikTok was potentially going away, right?
Yes, that's good. But for me, like, I'm someone who watches YouTube on my TV, and so the types of YouTube content that I consume are so different than the TikTok that I consume.
Yeah, but in beauty, YouTube is huge.
Yes. Yes.
So, well, I'm glad you're finding your way over there.
We're finding our way.
Good. That's great. Great.
I have a campaign idea for you guys.
Okay, love it.
So since you had Judge Judy in your Super Bowl ad a couple like last year, was that last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
I think you guys should have an E.L.F. collab
That could
on
be good.
Roommate Court.
We bring her in
bring Judge
for an
Judy in.
episode.
She ain't a cheap date.
Yeah,
so.
I get that. Highest paid woman in television.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because I think it's also interesting. I know this year for the Super Bowl you did that like live stream instead of an ad, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting you guys went from doing a TV spot to doing this like very social first campaign. Like, was that because you didn't maybe find the TV ad as effective as you wanted with the audience?
No, they were very effective.
Okay.
But we'd been there, done it.
Yeah.
And we did it on purpose. We did it because we know that 50% of the audience are female and women watching the show, and there were no beauty brands. It was Budweiser and a car. Not that women don't.
Cars.
Yeah. But you know, beauty wasn't there, and we wanted to make sure we were showing up loud and proud. Jennifer Coolidge was obviously trending because of White Lotus. You know, she wanted to be a dolphin, and the story became bigger. She's like, so we created, dolphin skin was trending on TikTok, and we created the campaign because she wanted to be a dolphin, and we gave her a sticky situation.
Yeah, you've got to do it, Jennifer Coolidge.
But what we did get out of that is we became the #1 SKU in all of beauty.
Oh, wow.
Power Grip Primer became the #1 SKU after that commercial. Surpassing, for years it was, you know, it was always Maybelline and L'Oreal Paris with mascara. Like a primer was like number 24 on the list, and we went all the way to #1, and we're still #1, which is crazy. So it has impact, trust me.
Yeah, just a
And
higher
it has
price
its
tag.
purpose and its place, and yeah, we just wanted to do something different. So, yeah, we did something
You had 5
different.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was fun.
Wait,
So-
really? For the Super Bowl ad?
No.
No,
Well, that
the
was
Super Bowl
also
ad
very fast.
was 3 weeks.
I was gonna say that,
with
but
JC,
yeah.
but yeah, and then it was what, I think 8 weeks for Judge Judy, and that was also another cool moment for the brand.
Yeah, because I forget who I was talking to someone at E.L.F. when you guys did that. Like you sort of were like also filming social content sort of concurrently on the set.
Yeah.
So it would be like a multi-dimensional campaign.
Yeah, we like to think 360, take things beyond just the one moment. I always say our going-to-market team is a machine, and we figured out how to navigate that, and it really does work. And you can make the smallest thing feel very big.
And there was a creator in that, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's on a new show now.
Yeah, Benito
Yeah.
Skinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like full circle here.
Yeah.
All these elements of our conversation.
Yeah, Heidi in the Closet, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Meghan Trainor, yep. The
I guess-
Suits cast, yeah.
Yeah, right. I think didn't Suits like kind of trend, so you guys jumped on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good times.
Listen, I love this conversation. I think it's rich, and we're talking about Gen Z and Gen Alpha. What's really important for us is obviously we're bold disruptors, kind heart, disrupt norms, shape culture, connect communities. That's a framework in which we work every day. But purpose is really important to us. So democratizing access is really the framework in which we work. And I'm super proud, you know, because we're up for the Titanium around the So Many Dicks campaign around Change the Board Game, which I think is really, and it's
Yeah.
let's give it up for a lot of people that really built that out. But why I'm sharing this with you, because it does resonate with Gen Z. And we can do all this great content on YouTube and everything, but when you lead with purpose and heart, I think you can touch a community of people and build a community of people that really want to, you know, find your brand and be a part of it.
Yeah. It's a really good point. It's about the storytelling at the end of the day.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess just to wrap things up before we turn it over to the audience Q&A, in terms of like this kind of trend we've been talking about, like creators as like brands working with creators on these series like a Boy Room, or brands launching more of their own kind of brand IP, I guess, like a Chuck Mates. Do you guys envision like more brands kind of leaning in this direction going forward when it comes to creator partnerships versus just like those like more like one-off sort of sponsored videos?
I think you see it in a little bit of an ecosystem. So that stuff, I mean, you talked about creator being a huge driver of E.L.F's scale. I think there's still a lot in just getting distribution and awareness and having those things out there. You know, we think a lot about relevancy and legacy. And I think you can build a lot of like short-term relevancy and work with creators, but you know, what's the longer term? How's this building towards, you know, what a brand becomes over time, and being able to produce these shows that they can hit you emotionally, they can make you laugh, and make you think about a brand and feel it in a way that you didn't feel it before. I think that's great. And creators just happen to be where so much of the attention is. So why not be working with these folks who also often have killer ideas and can be, you know, fantastic collaborators and people we can bring in. And, you know, it's one thing for me to try to go and sell something to Pat. It's another when you have somebody in who really knows it and you can bring it in together. And I find that that can just allow us to take chances and risks that were not always the easiest before.
I think I'm a big believer that in a landscape where Hollywood is dying, that brands are tomorrow's TV networks. And so I think we're big believers of like, if a brand were to look at their YouTube and their TikTok as a TV network, what are the shows that you would program? And so I think it's going to be really exciting in this next sort of decade as like a lot of traditional talent starts leaving Hollywood and being more in this space of like, let's go make those shows that we weren't able to sell to Nickelodeon anymore, or MTV or Comedy Central because they don't exist. But instead it's like, of course E.L.F. is the right partner to go make that show and have a really loyal audience that's tuning in first because they love the show and now they love E.L.F. even more.
Yeah, 100%. They said it all. But no, listen, I love the conversation, and hence the reason we created an entertainment arm. And we believe that no matter what, it's about the community first. And yes, we partner with creators. They're always going to be a big part of our family. At the end of the day, what our community wants, we're gonna give to them. So that's our holy grail, is that community. Yeah.
Good note to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions from the audience?
Oh, come on, there's got to be one. Rob, you got one.
What's next?
When are you getting off the stage? Is that, yeah.
Who's coming on next?
I guess for Adam, what's next for you guys? Like, what are you looking forward to most? And I guess I'd ask the same across for you, Jamie, and you, Pat, as well.
Well, for us, this is the year where we're really focused on building Gymnasium's brand. I think we, for 2 years, have been really enjoying being this like sort of silent production partner and making shows that live on their own accounts. I think for us, when we look at the sort of bigger risks that we want to start taking, it really involves having a loyal audience for Gymnasium itself. And so even this summer, we're starting to use Gymnasium's own social channels as a place of like reporting on culture and music, sort of thinking of like MTV News, but instead like on Gymnasium's channels, where a lot of our talent, they're going to start being reporting talent, where we send them to shows and things going on in New York and London. Because for us, I think what we're really starting to ramp towards is we're really excited about the world of live streaming. And I think for us, like, to tease it a little bit, this fall we're going to launch our first ever like traditional live daily after school format that will sort of be like our culture couch. Like, we really feel this generation is missing the couch, you know? I think it's like still a lot of young people feel like, okay, if I go on Jimmy Fallon, that means like I have made it, but it's not because they watch it. And so for us, we're really trying to crack like what is that perfect center of culture couch that we can make and have be this daily live format. And so we want a lot of our reporting to kind of lend its way to that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm under NDA. No, I think we talk about what is entertainment for Gen Z, and we hear so much about also the offline piece. So we're talking mostly online, but I think more and more it's looking at how we bring, you know, the right groups of people together and think about, you know, an offline experience that obviously gives us a platform to be able to tell great stories online. It's been interesting post, you know, it's 5 years since COVID, but really in like the last 18 months, I feel like everybody's kind of starting to ask for that and to think about how do we make people actually live and experience a brand in a new way again.
Yeah, according to Pinterest's latest report, it's a digital detox summer for Gen Z.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I'm hoping for me as well.
Yeah, right.
I don't see that happening for you.
I need my screen time to go down 1 hour. Would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, we lean into purpose. So our future is always going to be about how do we uplift and empower a new generation of women and young girls, whether we do it through sports, whether we do it through what we're doing in gaming on Roblox. We created a channel called E.L.F. Basically, 70% of young girls are being bullied on the channel, and we basically want to say E.L.F. to those that are doing it. So creating a safe space for young girls. And I think what we're doing in sports is obviously partnering with Catherine Legg, the only female driver in the Indy 500 and NASCAR, showing young girls that there's an opportunity. What we're doing with financial literacy on Roblox, I could go on, but like the reality is, we have a responsibility as brands is to really, you know, there are a lot of underserved communities, and we want to be there. And what we call white spaces in the world. When we showed up in St. Louis, Missouri, for the world's women's wrestling championship, where there were 7,000 people and 700 of these young girls in the fastest growing sport. That's what gets me up every day, and our team and Corey and the crew is like when we can change lives and change the world. That's really what we want to do.
Any other questions?
This question is familiar to Jamie, but I'm curious if each of you guys. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm curious if each of you guys can share your unrealized dream, like a brand that you're interested in, or like a collaborator that you're interested in, or like a format, Adam, that you're excited to try out. But yeah, unrealized dreams. It can be broader than that.
It's a juicy question.
The dream is going to become a reality, and I will not release the name of the person or the team, but I will say Adam was on a panel with that team the other day, so you do your homework.
Google it. I really am excited to finally get to a place where we have shows with live audiences. That's like my biggest dream. And I think being someone that grew up going on a tour of 30 Rock and just seeing this building that has all these different live shows with all this amazing talent, like that's my dream. So really excited for us to start getting there this fall with some live programming, but live audience, live shows.
Clara, I don't know what you're trying to set me up for here. No, it's funny, you know, I've had a chance to be in this type of world and doing this work for a really long time. this is corny. I think for me, Unrealized Dreams is getting to see people like Clara, the younger folks on our team, really starting to like own and build really big creative ideas. And to see those ideas go from being just something that lives for 24 hours on a TikTok, has a short shelf life, to becoming what a brand becomes synonymous with. You know, I think back to some campaigns from like way long ago in my career, and you know, you look back and people remember them and talk about them, and you know, stuff has a shorter shelf life now, but I think that's, you know, probably going to change. I think we're seeing just so much with AI, and there's so much slop out there. Like there's this appreciation of, you know, something that can really feel bigger and long lasting. You know, so I look forward to hopefully a little bit of some of that old school thinking coming back.
Love.
Yeah, well, I think we'll wrap things there. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Give our panelists another round of applause. That was fantastic.